The D-backs win a series against the Rockies, lose a series against the Dodgers, and are still fourth in the NL West as the Marte Parte is back. Corbin Carroll and Geraldo Perdomo finally get some recognition, but we don't seem to go anywhere in the division. We're recapping the last week of Dbacks baseball right now on the Dbacks podcast.
Perdomo makes the play.
And a high fly ball. No doubt about this. Home run Marte.
They're going to send them all the way around. Corbin Carroll with an inside the park answer back.
I'm Ivan Melendez.
I'm Luis Gonzalez.
I'm Tori Lavello, and you're listening to the Dbacks podcast.
Dbacks podcast.
Dbacks podcast.
Arizona's #1 baseball and beverage podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Dbacks podcast, where we bring you all the hottest Arizona Diamondbacks tea and talk from across the pond here in London. We're proud to be Arizona's #1 baseball and beverage podcast. It's been an emotional roller coaster this week in the past 7 days of Diamondbacks baseball. If you're a Diamondbacks fan, you know that nothing's ever simple with these guys, but even the simple stuff sometimes actually does come off, and that's exactly what happened in Game 1 against the Colorado Rockies. The offense gave Corbin Burnes plenty of run support to work with early on, built out a 5-0 lead through 4 innings, and then kept tacking on later in the game. Gabriel Moreno went 3 for 3 with a pair of doubles. Eugenio Suarez drove home 3, and Geraldo Perdomo chipped in 3 RBIs as well. Corbin Burnes only really ran into trouble once when he allowed a pair of walks, and the Rockies loaded the bases with 2 outs. The right-hander, though, struck out Mickey Moniak to end the inning, and at that point had gone 13 innings without allowing a run. Unfortunately, Diamondbacks felt so bad about the Rockies not scoring any runs, decided their pitching staff would throw them some BP balls in Game 2, which ended 12-14 in somewhat ridiculous fashion. Jordan Beck homered twice, Hunter Goodman and Kyle Farmer each went deep and had 4 RBIs, and Michael Toglia had a key hit off the bench. But the biggest jolt to the Diamondbacks, and probably to their ego as well as just in the game, might have come from the recently activated Ezequiel Tovar, who was 5 for 6. Zach Gallen once again stayed on trend of only being good against New York teams, giving up 8 hits and 6 runs in 5 innings, with Thompson and Graveman having their own nightmare outing as well, and it made it the first time in Diamondbacks franchise history that they've lost while scoring 12 or more runs, having previously been 151-0 in that scenario. It's both crazy and really disappointing that the first loss should come versus the 8-37 at the time Colorado Rockies in what was MLB's somewhat manufactured rivalry weekend. I know that we didn't really have many of the other potential rivals. The Giants are playing the A's, the Padres are at the Mariners, the Dodgers are playing the Angels, which left us and the Rockies to play each other in what I imagine some people are probably calling the purple uniform derby or something like that. The best people could come up with, I think, there. Like, it's not really like the battle for bragging rights in the Southwest because we're 4th and 5th in the division at the moment. Although, to be fair, NL West is NL Best. But playing the Rockies is something of a banana skin scenario when you take things for granted. Diamondbacks are like, oh, it's our chance to sweep a series, get things back on track after up and down, up and down, up and down past few weeks. And yeah, it all went wrong in Game 2. We've kind of crazy, and we took things for granted a little bit, and now Diamondbacks this year have gone 1-3 for the year when scoring 10 runs, which is really bad. That says far too much about our pitching quality all around, if you ask me. I'm absolutely crushing some Earl Grey today because I absolutely could use the ego boost. Game 3 got underway with Ketel Marte dropping a barrel onto a fastball, sending it over the wall in front of the pool, while Merrill Kelly struck out 11 in 7 scoreless innings of one-hit baseball, which, always good to see Merrill the mainstay having a good day out on the mound. Kevin Ginkel got 2 more Ks in a 1-2-3-8th, and Shelby Miller was given the rock out of a save. It was a pretty fraught moment as he gave up 2 consecutive hits before an intentional walk trying for the force at any base, but fortunately got an infield fly to Geraldo Perdomo, and Jerry grabbed Tolia's line drive out the air to secure the game and series win. When you're playing the Rockies, you can't be making it as dramatic as the Diamondbacks did in that scenario. And before we really get on to talking about, where it all went wrong in the series on the road at Chavez Ravine against the Dodgers, can we just reflect on the fact that pretty much everybody was expecting us to sweep the Rockies with the amount of talent that the Diamondbacks have in this lineup? Somehow we didn't manage it. Somehow we managed to give them, 14 runs in a game and even make winning a game against them in comfortable fashion look difficult. And frankly, we got to do better. It's all about, nailing down the consistency. It's not just like making little errors or big errors and eliminating both. It's about figuring out what within the headspace of this Diamondbacks baseball team isn't working right. And I think maybe going into the series against the Dodgers, we sort of rested on our laurels a bit. We're like, okay, take it easy against the Rockies. They're the Rockies at the end of the day. I appreciate they're pretty terrible this year, and it's tough to see because they do have fans that show in, week out to see that, and then they're not being rewarded with any kind of product on the field. But we should still be beating them. I know we won the series, but winning the series isn't the same as getting the sweep and actually getting that clubhouse boost that I think the Diamondbacks needed. Torey Lovullo obviously isn't entirely to blame, but something about that culture, the complacency has started to creep in a little bit. It's not great. So, unfortunately, with the series win versus the Rockies in the bag, we could have probably been forgiven a little bit for writing off the games against the Dodgers on the road. Like, hey, we won this series against the Rockies, so it's fine if we lose against the Dodgers. I don't like that kind of thinking, and it seems the Diamondbacks didn't either. A combination of good early small ball, some Dodger errors, 2-run homers from Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Gabby Moreno, and Geraldo Perdomo meant the Snakes outslugged Betts and Otani and co. to take the series opener. At that point, they were 5 in the last 6 games at Dodger Stadium, outscoring them 48-21. And there was no reprise following the Angels' sweep at Chavez Ravine. And as a result, Brandon Pfaadt added another W to his record. He's now at 7-3. Shelby Miller picked up another save in less fraught fashion this time around when you compare the chaos of the games against the Giants and the Rockies. And a surprise positive cameo from no less than Scott McGough pulled a 1-2-3 inning, getting Shohei Imuki in the process. That was good. All of a sudden, we're thinking, oh yeah, well, you can go and beat the Dodgers now. And realistically, we should have. We should have won every game in that series, and it just did not happen. Game 2 saw Yoshinobu Yamamoto throw 7 innings of a no-hitter before Ketel Marte got it worked out. Ryan Nelson came in as the starter and threw 5 innings with 1 earned walk on 5 base hits and a walk. Gabby Moreno tied in the 9th with a homer. Corbin Carroll tacked on another in extra innings, but the Diamondbacks still fell to a heartbreaking loss as Shelby Miller pitched through the 3rd consecutive game, having to burn him there, lost the save, gave up a walk-off win and a bases-loaded sac fly. And then, with the series on the line, the Diamondbacks couldn't deliver. Ketel Marte homer was really the only highlight, as another L went in the column for Corbin Burns despite a solid game. He put up 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, 3 earned, BB and 8K. Outside of a hanging slider thrown to Teoscar Hernandez in the 6th, he had pretty much a perfect game, not in the literal sense of a perfect game, obviously. But I think it sums up the team this year. They're capable of great pitching, they're capable of extraordinary hitting and solid defense, just not all at the same time, and certainly not when it matters. And it's definitely not to the standards of the past 2 years. If you're getting used to watching the Diamondbacks do the unthinkable, they're doing the unthinkable all right. They're taking all of these good elements, rolling them together into one baseball team, and somehow still not being very good most of the time. Corbin Carroll's home run in Game 2 could have been an MVP season-defining moment if the bullpen could have sealed that win. Ketel Marte getting hot at just the right time is great, but if he's the only hot bat in the lineup that day, it's effectively useless. And it's even less so if the pitching staff can't do even the bare minimum. Lourdes Gurriel playing outstanding left field defense and hitting a lot, generating some Pena power, getting on base is great. But it's negated by Jordan Lawler behind him, regularly going 0 for 4 when he is getting at bats. Loads of people are saying, we need to get Jordan Lawler regular at-bats. He was getting regular at-bats in Reno. Ironically, we called him up when he was just starting to get a bit of a slump. And then all of a sudden, we're surprised when he's striking out most of the time and not having any kind of productivity at the plate. It doesn't seem to quite be working out. And something about the mentality within the fan base here isn't right. Because not all of this can be down to Torey Lovullo, despite what some of you guys might think or say online. He's managed some key players back from injury or a lack of overall conditioning or fitness, bringing them back too soon. And he's masterminded some of the mental and physical adjustments we've seen Corbin and Eugenio make to get them having really stronger seasons. Like they're both up there in terms of the home run counts for the year. But unfortunately, a lot of the time, their strong games come when the pitching staff, and I'm mainly focused on the bullpen here, have decided that they're playing for Italy next year at the World Baseball Classic because it's meatball central over there. Although, to be fair, playing for Italy at the World Baseball Classic, pretty good. There's plenty of good Italian-American players who are going to be on that roster. But still, They got to be doing better than this. I will be fair, though. The offense as a whole deserves some criticism, too. Let's talk Ryan Nelson and Corbin Burns. I've got a stat here for you. They've combined for 11 innings pitched, 4 earned runs, 8 Ks in the last couple of series. The offense has scored 1 run total during that time when Nelson or Burns has been on the mound. Here's a scenario for you. Geraldo Perdomo works a leadoff walk. Corbin Carroll singles, but Tim Tower, Lourdes Gurriel, and Ketel Marte hit balls that don't even leave the infield for 3 outs. That's what happened in Game 2 in one particular moment when it could have been sort of a tide turner. And it's just so lazy and wasteball. I've come up with the episode title there, Wasteball. We might as well call it Wasteball, honestly. There seems to be a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel for the Dbacks, though, it seems. Adrian Cadell Castillo's rehab progress has given Gabby Moreno a kick up the backside to have an offensive surge. He absolutely owns Dodger Stadium. He took Christian Walker leaving the team very personally and decided, you know what? I'm going to be the guy who owns Dodger Stadium now. And good on Gabby for that. It's nice to see him finally getting some power back in his bat. He's been getting close a few times. He's been coming close in terms of reaching the warning track, getting good line drives, working on some pop-ups that probably should have had a bit more reach. And now he's finally hitting for some good slug at the moment. I'm just going to pull up Gabby's stats and see just what his line is at the moment, because I feel like we haven't really seen the best of Gabby just yet either. All right, do MLB app, do this Diamondbacks Moreno, Gabby Moreno. There we go. God, my internet's being slow today. Right, yeah, 2025 regular season, 128 bats, a 266 batting average, 3 homers, 13 RBIs, and an OPS of 716. Versus, you compare to his career numbers, he's got an average of 278, 16 homers, and an OPS of 736. So he's batting just about what we know he can do, but at the same time, the trend is starting to look a lot better. He's had 28 at-bats in his last 7 games, 10 hits, 2 homers, and struck out 5 times, versus in his last, before that point, he had 17 hits, 3 homers, but 11 strikeouts. So he's adjusting some things that clearly aren't working. He's clearly making more contact with the ball if you look at that stats right now. Well, in terms of his batter versus pitcher stuff, he's looking pretty solid in terms of things working out, and, you know, that works. That works for me. Gabby Moreno clearly making the adjustments he needs. Somebody, however, who isn't, we're going to talk about a bit later. That's Pavin Smith. You know what? Let's just jump into the Pavin Smith debate right now. Pavin, I love you. I invented the MV Pavin thing. Most valuable Pavin. I'm sure he's still possible for that. But at this point in his career, I think he's 26 now, I think. He's been in the Dbacks organization almost a decade now. And we're looking at him and we're still thinking, yeah, he can break out into an elite league DH/first baseman in part of that platoon. There's always been flickers of that. There's flashes of brilliance. He's fantastic. You know, as if any of you guys who ever played me at MLB The Show know, he's my full-time DH with that spotlight card he got at one point. But it's missing right now. The Pavin Smith DH MVP campaign has stalled a little as of late. There's been quite a lot of tweets about this from various people on the old social media sphere. Let's read some of those out now. Pavin Smith opinions. Yeah, Dbacks Dispatch is one of the most vocal people on it. They said, instead of making the move to get a full-time reliable DH, Mike Hazen decided to entrust the position to Pavin and Randall, who have combined for a total of 18 RBI in a 50-game season. They have the 6th highest run in production on the team, only 3 ahead of Alec Thomas, who has 15. And Brett over there, also from the Dbacks Dispatch from AZ Fanspit, Pavin Smith hitting 188, 333, 344 for a 677 OPS with a 38.5% strikeout rating with runners in scoring position this season. He has pointed out the entire offense struggles a little bit with righty starting pitchers, but yeah, it's fair enough to expect more from the DH. Thinking about it, here's a bit of trivia for you. Listener, when was the last time Pavin Smith had a good game? If you said the 23rd of the 4th, 2025 against Tampa Bay, you'd be right, where he collected 2 extra base hits and 2 RBIs. But he's a long way from when he was hitting 404 this season with the go-ahead home run against the Rays. That's not it. And when you're being struck out by Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who's thrown a career-high 110th pitch of the night, and you're still getting struck out on that, it's not good. I think we thought, it's fair enough to have some faith in Pavin as the full-time DH when we thought, okay, well, we're not going to get the kind of money that was being expected that some teams were willing to throw at the likes of Christian Walker, Jock Peterson in that offseason. We thought, okay, give Pavin a go, but let's talk Adrian Del Castillo again. I'm going to say it quietly because I don't want to jinx anything, but if his return has boosted Gabby Moreno's productivity, can you imagine how good both of them in a lineup would be? Before Adrian Del Castillo got injured at the start of the year, Mike Hazen said he probably wasn't going to consider him as part of a DH platoon. We might have to now, depending on how much worse things can get. Obviously, ADC's a righty, Pavin Smith's batting lefty, so it would be a competition between Grichuk and Del Castillo from memory, so maybe that wouldn't be quite a thing that we're willing to think about just yet, but Jose Herrera went on a bit of a tear for a while and has seemed to have cooled off a little bit. So, three-way catching battle. There's no way you're going to fit in the thing, but we do need a bit more pop at the plate. If Suarez is going to have quiet days, we're going to sit Marte at times to get Lawler at bats. We're going to sit Suarez to get Lawler at bats. Roder Perdomo less so, but he's still having an absolute all-star caliber year. I know this is a bit of a moaning podcast, but I do want to still highlight just how good Geraldo Perdomo has been for the Diamondbacks this year. He's absolutely getting all-star shouts. You think about the all-star shortstop for the National League, you're probably going to get Mookie Betts pretty high in the vote. There's only one category in which Mookie is outperforming Jerry in the whole thing, and that's home runs. And we know Jerry's never really been a power bat, but he makes good contact, he gets good swings, and he's at 6, I think, home runs for the year now. So yeah, little shout out to Geraldo Perdomo before I start complaining a bit more. You know what? I'm not going to complain anymore. We're going to talk some more about some positives. Justin Martinez is almost back. He threw up to 101 miles an hour during his rehab outing in unit. He's probably going to join the team in the next series against St. Louis. And Ketel's coming off his 150th career home run and his 7th of the year after missing all of April. That means we've finally got at least 3 reliable power bats in the everyday lineup if Pavin isn't performing. We've got Gino, we've got Josh Naylor, and we've got Ketel before we even start considering just how much Corbin is absolutely raking this year. Unfortunately, it's not going to be plain sailing from here, regardless of all that good news, because the Dodgers were a tough test. When it's not getting too much easier, we got the St. Louis Cardinals up next, who at one point 17-6 since April 25th, the best in the National League, 16-6 at home. I think that's 16-8 now since I wrote these notes. The starters have allowed 2 or fewer runs in 11 of the last 12 games, and they're coming off hanging 11 runs on Detroit, the top team in the AL, despite losing the last 2 games of that series for the ultimate split. They're no pushovers, but in some good news that the D-backs desperately need, 2 of the upcoming games are 7 p.m. starts here in the UK. So don't know if you've been paying attention. If you're listening to the show, you probably have. Whenever we have a good start time for Diamondbacks baseball here in the UK and I watch, we win. It's as simple as that. I think something about the day games just work a lot more for Diamondbacks versus when the spotlight gets on them a bit more and people are saying, oh yeah, here's a special event. It's Apple TV, it's Monday Night Baseball, it's whatever you want to say on whatever broadcaster. Diamondbacks have been a lot better in day games this year and day games on the road as well. So who knows, maybe we might be able to go on a bit of a tear in the Lou. And that means something very differently if you're from the UK. All right, here, I'll make you a promise now. If we do well, I'll name the next episode Going on a Tear on the Lou. Anyway, before I head off to the United States with the Home Run Travel Co., I'll have some Diamondbacks baseball to get my hopes up. And hey, good news, guys. It could always be worse. We could be the Rockies on pace to finish 74 games out of first place, shattering the all-time record, on pace to finish 58 games out of fourth place, shattering the all-time record. There is always a worse team than the Diamondbacks. That is consistent, even in a 110-loss season for the Snakes. There's always a team that plays worse baseball than we do. anything else on my list? Well, yeah, ultimately, Diamondbacks, good players, just need to string it together, be a bit more consistent. I'm sounding like a broken record in the show, but hey, it's true. That's all I have to say for the week. We are going to leave with a shout out, obviously, to the Home Run Travel Co., who are unfortunately the reason why there's not going to be an episode, at least in the usual format, for a while, because I'm going to be on the road on the West Coast, visiting Los Angeles, Anaheim, San Francisco, San Diego, and Seattle before I get back to Chase Field and Arizona for the home stand against the Seattle Mariners in July. I'm so excited to get back to Chase Field. If you see me there, come say hi. I might have some stuff to give out to people, little treats from the UK if you do see me. But that's going to wrap up the episode. We do want to give a shout out to the Home Run Travel Co., with whom I will be traveling around, seeing some baseball, filming some vlogs, generally getting to be a baseball content creator, which is always nice. If you're one of my listeners in the UK and you fancy going on a trip to see some baseball, it is too late to book onto the West Coast tour. But there's All-Star Game, World Baseball Classic, East Coast, and potentially even a rumored trip to Japan to see some NPB baseball, all being discussed in the Home Run Travel Company community at the moment. So if that sounds like your particular cup of tea, which, we're always after a cup of tea on this show, feel free to reach out to them, give them a ring, say, hey, I want to go see this, and see what Harry and the team can do for you. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. Please make sure that you like and subscribe wherever it is you're watching / listening to the show. We are at Dbacks Podcast on pretty much every social media platform. I myself am at GB Diamondback on X, formerly Twitter. And we're also at Dbacks on TikTok, where you can see some little shorts about what my life as a baseball fan living in the UK looks like. We're going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.